Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar session. We just hit live, we just hit go on the session, so I will wait for everyone to start filtering into the room. I can see a few of you coming here now, so I'm very excited to do today's session with all of you. We're going to be talking about key marketing trends to focus on this year. This is going to be the first time we've switched platforms for today's webinar. We're going to be using Zoom. So just want to make sure that everything is working nicely for everyone. I can see in the attendees section a few names to come in now. If you are joining us live, you're watching this with me right now, please go ahead and there should be a chat section, or you can use I think there's like a Q&A box that you can use as well. If you can go ahead and just type in there and let me know where you are tuning in from for today's webinar and what you do or what your agency is focused on, that would be really great. And then we can start to just make sure for certain everything is working. A quick kind of double test. Okay, I can see a few messages coming in the chat now. I see Johan, I think, saying hello, I'm tuning in from Ecuador. Michelle from New Jersey. Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us. Denise in Italy. Perfect. So I'm going to keep that chat box over on my screen so I can see all of you. I am today coming from Estonia. I'm originally from the UK, as most of you can probably tell. I'm normally based in Tallinn, but right now I'm on a break down in the south of Estonia in the countryside. So my Wi-Fi is a little bit ropey. If there are any issues, please go ahead and let me know. If we cut out for any reason, we'll make sure everything works okay. But I've done plenty of tests over the last couple of days and we are all good. Johan says, I'm just starting in this agency journey. So that's great to hear. Okay, I think we'll kick off. If you're watching the replay of this at any point, then I would really encourage you, if you can next time, to come along and join us on the live session. But if you are watching live right now and for any reason you need to drop off at any point, the session will be recorded and you will be able to access it later on. But I would encourage you to stay in real time and live if you can, to make sure we can answer any of your questions and support you as we go throughout today's session. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about key marketing trends to focus on this year. And we will begin by just talking about the three kind of areas that we're going to focus on today. So we'll talk about some recent and emerging trends for social media agencies. We'll talk about whether or not you should focus on trends when you're building or running an agency. I think this is something that is really important. And then we'll just share, I'm going to give a couple of practical examples of how we've implemented some kind of trends within our agency business. But before we get to that, I'll do a quick introduction. I think I can see some familiar names here in the Zoom chat. So some of you have previously been on our sessions, but also plenty of new people here too. So my name is Dylan Hay. I am the CEO and co-founder of an agency called HeyDigital. And so we are a completely remote team with 14 full-time employees and a few contractors that we work with as well. And we run paid advertising campaigns and CRO campaigns and experiments for B2B SaaS companies. So we have a very specific niche. And we actually talked about the power of niching down and whether or not to niche down in your agency in our last session as part of the Agency and Freelancer Academy. So I would definitely recommend checking that out in the resources section after this session if you have time. And so yeah, we have a very specific niche. I've been running the business for about 3 years now, and we work with many of the leading SaaS companies in the world. Some companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, some kind of very popular names in the space, such as Hotjar. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Now, why am I running this session or these sessions? I'm not an employee of PromoRepublic, but I support them on some initiatives such as this Agency and Freelancer Academy and leading a couple of these sessions. So PromoRepublic are doing something really fantastic where they are dedicating a lot of time and resource and energy and effort into supporting their community, helping people just like you who are watching this get better at building an agency or growing an agency business. And so the whole idea behind the Agency and Freelancer Academy is that there'll be multiple people like myself who are kind of in their agency journey right now or in their freelancing journey right now, sharing tips, tricks, insights, useful pieces of information with all of you so that you can hopefully speed up the learning path for building your agency and building your business. And so I'm running 2 webinars a month as part of the Agency and Freelancer Academy, and I know that there are many other sessions that are also going on, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on into into this webinar. So that's a little bit about myself. Let's talk about some current and recent social media marketing trends. This is what I'm sure many of you are here for today, and this is where we are going to get started. And social media marketing trends for this year and kind of how you can implement them into your agency. Okay, so the first trend is one I'm sharing about less being more and quality over everything. So I think we would all agree that the last year and a half or so has been a very interesting time in the world, right? And a lot of change has been going on. I'm sure many of you are either starting your agency in response to that, or maybe have had some changes in your agency as a result of everything happening in the world over the last year. And one of the things I've really seen is that um, quality should be the focus over everything on media content. And you'll have probably noticed that brands are spending less time focusing on huge volumes of social media posts and instead spending more time producing content that is thoughtful or valuable or supports their audience and supports with what's going on in the world around them. And I think business owners have started to ask questions this year more than ever, like, okay, does our audience or our customers or consumers, do they really want to hear from me right now? And if they do, what message do I want to put out there? And I think this, in the world of social media marketing and running social media marketing agencies, this is something that has always been important. Of course, quality content is really key, but there's definitely been a shift now around, okay, not focusing on let's tell our clients or our prospects that the value add of our service is that we're going to post 7 pieces of content every single day for 360 days a year, and save them time because we're posting so much content. Companies are being more thoughtful about what they post and when they post. And I think this, in many cases, is actually going to result in them posting less, regardless of social media algorithms or agency owners like us telling possible. And so I wanted to kind of share this trend, and we'll go into a bit more depth about this and share some examples in a second as well. But I think a real takeaway for me at the moment when I look at, I guess, social media managing agencies or people in that space is that um, instead of leaning into, okay, our our pitch or our value add or our offering is X number of posts per day, per week, per month, instead start focusing into how you can provide quality content and content that connects your customers with, or your clients with their customers or with their audience. How many of you here are actually focused on running purely social media marketing agencies, or who of you are focused on other things? Let me know using the chat section whether you're maybe a full service agency, or you may be a paid ads agency, a social media marketing agency, you may do SEO. I'd be really interested to just get a quick kind of grip of who we have here. I think this is really, really important. See, Denise says SEO and social media marketing. Michelle says just social media so far. So I'll try and make sure that with the content today, we're mixing it between kind of social media marketing and stuff relevant for other agencies as well. Like I said, myself, we focus on paid advertising and SEO, but obviously I have a lot of experience in social media as well. So yes, okay. So less is more, quality over everything, and that also ties into my second kind of trend and point that I've noticed so far this year. And so you all know we're going to be covering 5, and then 5 trends, and then a few ways to potentially implement some of these trends and things you should consider before implementing trends as well. And so content value will beat production quality. How many of you here can say, I'm pretty sure everyone will agree that in the last year or year and a half, me personally, I'm watching probably the same amount of content or consuming the same amount of content as I was previous, but I've definitely seen a shift in the kind of content that I enjoy and the kind of content that people are putting out there. And often it's the valuable stuff that captures my attention more than, okay, what is a super high production ad or what is a really high production video. And I think the events of the last year have forced brands and companies to get really scrappy when it comes to producing content, especially video, because everyone's been working from home, right? Everyone's remote. and people don't have as much access anymore to production studios or have loads of equipment available. And this has resulted in something that I think is really positive, which is content becoming more human today. And this has generally led to consumers or people enjoying and engaging more with the brands who have embraced this rather than turned it away. I think I've seen some companies kind of still try and stick to doing everything the same way as they were previous. And those are the ones that are falling behind the brands that are really just shooting things themselves at home, shooting ads maybe even on their phone or content on their phone. And so the playing field for content creation has definitely leveled. And as an agency owner, especially someone in the social media space or the marketing space, this should be really encouraging for all of you, because you're now able to compete a lot easier with these agencies that previously maybe had their own production studios or huge budgets to shoot ads or to create content. And now the playing field is the same. They have the same level of access and equipment that you have, and you have the ability to create authentic content and engage and connect with your clients' audiences in the same way as everybody else. And so I think it's more important now than ever to be thinking about, if you're a brand or if you're working with a client who's obviously a brand, how can you create more engaging, authentic content that feels real, that doesn't feel like it's I don't know, like a old school TV ad or something that people don't want to watch. And I'm going to share a couple of examples actually of what this looks. I don't know if any of you have seen this, but this is like I guess a trend in itself that I've been seeing a lot of videos on recently, which or at home, often students or creative people that are super interested in this space are creating their own commercials or their own ads. And this one is an example. I don't think like the sound will play, but let me just try and play the video here. Um, and this is an example of someone filming like a commercial grade ad in their college dorm. So you can kind of watch this through. It was shared on TikTok. There's a huge number of these that are coming out, and I'm seeing these all the time and really enjoy watching them. And so you'll see that this is the kind of behind the scenes of how this person created the ad. And then in a second, you'll see this is what they created right here. And this is what I talked about with the playing field now becoming level, right? Someone is able to do this at college in their dorm room, and this video blew up. I think it had, yeah, you can see in the article over on the left hand side, over 16 million views, 4 million likes, and multiple offers for jobs in agencies and directly in companies too. And this was all from a student filming their own version of a Sprite commercial. And so this is a really good example of kind of how the playing field is leveled, and how with a bit of creativity and just using like one camera or a phone for content, and the backdrop was like a bed sheet and it was on a desk and on a box, right? You can still create the same level of what a high production studio may have built in the past. And so this is one really great practical example. And if you were to search for like TikTok commercials on even on YouTube or on TikTok, if you have it, you'll see so many of these cropping up and so many talented people sharing their skill sets here. So this was one example. And then the second example that I wanted to share is how PromoRepublic are actually kind of leaning into this trend of this one here, like quality over everything and focusing on content value. So at PromoRepublic, of course, a big target segment for them, or a core audience focus for them, is agency owners and freelancers and people who are thinking about building agencies, people like all of you who are here on this set. And so one thing that they decided to do is relaunch their agency and freelancer academy and really build an online education platform for marketing sessions like these webinars through different resources and everything else like that. So I think this is actually a great case study in itself, or a great example. And I wanted to, we'll talk about implementing trends a little bit later on, but I wanted to start getting all of you to think about, okay, how could we maybe bring or integrate some of this for some of our clients, or how could we just experiment a bit more with the kind of content that we create. So me personally, we like I'm doing these sessions with PromoRepublic. I'm also now and again doing other kind of webinars like this with other companies who are within our agency's target market as well. And it's something that works out really well for us and provides a ton of value to the kind of people that we want to put ourselves in front of. So this is kind of a real world case study in the making that you're watching right here on today's session as well. So I wanted to make sure we shared this. Okay, now let's go to the third trend. This is one that I, to be honest with all of you, am probably the most excited about out of all of them, and one that I've been leaning into a lot at my agency and in my personal life over the last couple months. And I'm going to share more in depth about this later on. How many of you have heard about, I'm sure all of you have heard about AI, right? But how many of you have heard about AI-powered copywriting tools and software? Let me know, because I would love to see. I'm going to show you something that I think will blow probably a lot of your minds a little bit later on, but it's tough to write content for social media or for blog posts or SEO or marketing in general, right? And one of the biggest and most exciting trends for me this year is AI-powered copywriting software. I see a few people have heard of these things in the chat, not everybody. So yeah, Johan says the two that I know are Copy AI, Conversion AI. So the one that I use, and I'm going to show you this a little bit later on, is a tool called, it used to be called Conversion AI. It's now called Jarvis AI. And it looks, let me just show you this real quick. I'm not going to do like a demo or anything like that, but I want to show you how we're using it in our agency in a few seconds. Let's go back to screen sharing. Okay. And so if anyone did want to check this out later, if you want to bookmark this link, I have a special link for everyone where basically if you sign up for Jarvis using this link that I've shared, you'll get 10,000 words and like I think it's a 5-day free trial. And so I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later on, but it's a good offer that I have as like a partner of theirs or a referral partner of theirs. And so the robots aren't quite ready to just take over your job, and you can't lean on this fully, but these tools will help make your life as a marketer much, much easier. And HeyDigital is our agency, and some of the things that we're doing, we've been able to utilize these to save a lot of time and resource in our business as well. So Denise, I just actually shared I shared it to panelists. I need to share it to all attendees, don't I? Okay, there you go. I just shared my link in there. And so I'll show a bit later on a couple of the ways that we're using AI copywriting tools to speed up our process and improve what we're doing internally. But I think this is super exciting for marketing. You'll have seen a number of these tools pop up. The one that we use is definitely the most advanced at the moment, and it makes me consider what other tools are going to be cropping up over the next 6 months that are going to, as agency owners or as marketers, speed up our kind of workflows and improve our processes. And of course, if anyone here is managing social media for clients and you're not already using a great social media management platform, I know you know PromoRepublic, so that's likely why you're here, but you should definitely take a look at PromoRepublic as well. I'm all about kind of I'm all about simplifying workflows and introducing processes at my agency and at my team. And if we can use automation or tools to help us, then we will. And so I would definitely recommend you check out PromoRepublic too if you haven't done so already. But that's why most of you are here, right? Okay. So my fourth trend for this year, this one isn't like a new trend by any means, but something that is continuing to expand for sure. And that is live content. Like, how many of you have either live streamed before or been involved with live streams for your clients or helped them promote live streams, whether that's webinars like this or whether it's actual kind of interviews or roundtables or just a normal general live stream? I'd be interested to know how many of you here have experience with live streaming. Let me know in the chat box. So live streaming is something that I've leaned into heavily over the last year and a half or 2 years now. And so there are tons of stats that I could share about how great live streaming is or how important it's going to be. But I just grabbed these two. So nearly 75% of millennials say that videos are helpful when comparing products when online shopping. And that's not necessarily live videos, but yeah, 75% of millennials say they're helpful. However, people who watch live videos are watched 10 to 20 times longer than on-demand videos. And so if you're working with, let's say, I don't know, a local business, a e-commerce store, or even in your own agency itself, live content is a really powerful tool that you can utilize to, again, like we mentioned earlier, kind of connect deeper with your audience or with your client's audience, build relationships, and ultimately generate more sales as well, like you can see here. So many people say that videos are helpful when they're comparing products, and if you share live videos with people, they watch it 10 to 20 times longer than on-demand videos. One thing that I actually saw yesterday, I didn't put in this deck, but I'm going to share with you also. I'm a big F1 car fan, and I saw one of the F1 teams, they used to be called Renault. They changed their name this year to Alpine, and Alpine is a brand of Renault's like sports cars, just with a different name. Hopefully this will load up. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is their sales increased 70% since sponsoring the F1 team this year, which is crazy. But one thing that I saw they do, which I think is super, super cool, which is essentially live streaming, is you can go and you'll see here online showroom. They will live stream one-on-one with you and a sales agent, and they will show you a car in real time. Look at that, a real-time personalized preview. And so basically I could schedule something with them right now. I could begin a tour available in English, French, and German, and you'll see a dedicated advisor equipped with a video device will guide you in real-time tour of the vehicle, and you can kind of ask them questions and stop them and stuff. And so this is one example of, this is one example of seeing a brand introduce live streaming into their sales process without even being like live streaming to many, but actually on a one-to-one basis. And I thought this was super interesting, actually. So yeah, this is one thing. And for anyone out there who is, I'm going to share how we've used live streaming as an agency a little bit later on as well. But if you are, again, kind of considering or thinking about live streaming and looking for something to support you, then I have a special link that I can share. Let me just grab it here. Another one of the companies that I kind of support and work with is Restream. They're basically the #1 live streaming solution. You can go ahead and check out a special offer that I have through them for all of you as well. This is the tool that we use for myself and our team, and also if we were to use it for any clients, so that we can live stream their videos to all the different platforms at the same time and create kind of engaging live streaming shows like this. Here I am actually on the studio page. You'll see me there. So I definitely recommend taking a look at that too if you're looking to improve your live streaming game. Okay. And then the fifth and final trend that I'm sharing for this year is podcasts. So again, this is nothing entirely new, but I've definitely seen the rate of recognition and funding and money and advertising involved in podcasts significantly increase over the last 12 months. Do any of you here have your own podcast or work with clients who have podcasts? Let me know. I would love to see from some of you in the chat if you do, but yeah, there's a number of reasons why kind of podcasts are growing. If any of you are interested in this space, you'll have seen this is a great YouTube video over here actually, but this is a podcast that Spotify just acquired for $60 million about a week ago. And then of course, most people know about the Joe Rogan podcast acquisition from Spotify as well. So there's a lot more money in podcast acquisitions right now, but also podcast advertising is increasing very significantly. I was looking at some data on this before the webinar, and seeing that the listenership of podcasts and the advertising dollars spent on podcasts just growing and growing and growing over the last 12 to 18 months. And so I think if you haven't considered the opportunities that can come with a podcast up until now, I'm going to share two different ways of doing this in a second or a little bit later on. We have our own podcast at HeyDigital, and I'll share how that's been great for the agency, but then also how, if you're doing social media management for clients, I'm going to share like how you can utilize a podcast as a pillar piece of content to create lots of micro pieces of content for your social media marketing strategy. So we'll kind of get into a few of those a little bit later on into the session, but we have a couple areas to cover before then, and that they are as interactive and as engaging as possible. So if any of you do have questions about either trends for this year or just your agency business in general, please go ahead and get them in the chat and we'll cover all of them before we end. We still have another 20 minutes or so available. I have another 4 or 5 slides I'm going to run through, but I like to take questions in real time as well. So if you do have questions, make sure you get them in. I know today we're talking about trends, so it's a little bit more general, not so deep on one specific topic, but we are always keen to support you and provide you with help. Okay, so the question now is, should you focus on trends in agency? Should you think about implementing trends or changing your offerings based on trends, or some of these other questions? And I see Ling's question about any SEO trends they'd like to share, so maybe we can get to some of those later on. I have maybe a couple ideas. Other people here may have some ideas too. And Michelle, we'll get to your question. What do you recommend for very small businesses? If you could just add a bit more context to that question, that would be great, because what do we recommend for small businesses? It's a pretty broad question. So if you could add a little bit more context there so I can help you, that would be awesome. Okay, so should you focus on trends? What are the pros and cons? So the pros of making sure you're up to date with trends, at least, are some of them will help your team operate more efficiently, and that's a story that I'm going to share with these AI copywriting tools a little bit later on. I'll share an example of that. But one of the pros of keeping up to date with trends is definitely that some of these will help you operate more efficiently and build better processes, etc. Another pro is that it will keep your knowledge current, so you're less likely to be displaced by another agency. If you are up to date with everything that's going on in your world, in your industry, and you're the person sharing with your clients kind of updates about what's happening, things going on within the space, they're going to see you and less likely to be kind of shopping around for alternatives. And also, an agency that's just up to date with trends is usually more attractive to prospects. If you're posting your own content about industry leading things you're doing, or cool new things that you're implementing, or changes in the marketplace, that's the kind of stuff that attracts people to work with you, rather than agencies that just aren't sharing anything that's happening, or aren't positioning themselves as thought leaders within their industry or within their niche, etc. And then so some of the cons are definitely cons as well. I wouldn't I try and encourage to look at trends but not spend too much time on them, because trend hopping can definitely cause you to lose focus in your day-to-day work, and that can then waste time. And I think it ties into my last point here too, about like, if you get shiny object syndrome too often, like for example, when I first heard about these AI copywriting tools, I definitely spent a lot of time experimenting with like 2 to 3 of these different tools, and that was time that wasn't entirely necessary and can lead to a drop in the quality of your work or your output in general. So that's something to consider, is like, okay, identifying trends, jumping on you and your business and your team, but at the same time, if you do it too often, it's actually probably gonna, although your intention is to speed things up and improve things, it might actually pull you back. And then another thing to consider is like, each time you implement a new trend, like let's say there was I don't know, let's say you thought, okay, live streaming or podcasting. Let's say, okay, podcasting is clearly here to stay. It's a big trend. It's getting more and more popular. I want to implement a service in my agency where we do podcast production, for example, for other companies or for clients of ours. If you're to do that, you would have to build out an entirely new set of processes and systems, and potentially hire additional people on your team. And this can sometimes, in some cases, be more time consuming than time saving, or more work than benefit, or more work than reward. So this is something to consider for sure when you're thinking about trends, is to just make sure that if you are gonna hop into a trend or jump into a trend, you've taken a good amount of time to decide, okay, this is something that can bring value to our team, to our agency, to our clients, and it's something that I'm confident in building systems around, or hiring around, and something that we know for sure is going to be, or as close to sure, is going to be worth it in the long run for you and your agency and your business. Now, I know the screen share will just be showing as pause for a second. I'm just grabbing one more link that I want to share with all of you a little bit later on. Okay, cool. Okay, so we can go back here now. Okay, so those are some of the pros and cons of trends and choosing trends. I can see a couple of questions coming in, so we'll definitely get to those at the end of the session. I just have like two more things to share with all of you. Um, but yes, if you do have questions around what we've talked about so far, or just general marketing agency, social media agency growth, or you need some support, go ahead and get them in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we get to those in a second. But I wanted to make sure that we covered, okay, these are 5 trends. And of course, there are many other trends in the social media world right now too. I could share 10, 20, 30. But what's the benefit to this? Or let's look at how I can share with you all 2 real world use cases around how we implemented trends at HeyDigital and how they helped us or hindered us in some cases. So I kind of have 2, I think, perfect examples. One is our podcast, and then one is the AI powered copywriting tool. So the podcast, we launched a podcast in 2020. We actually haven't published an episode for a little while now, but we were running a weekly show and it will be back soon in 2020. And that podcast was called the SaaS Marketing Show, and it was focused on, like I said, if you were here at the beginning of the session, my agency works with SaaS companies and we run their paid advertising. And so the person that we sell to, or our target buyer, is usually a VP of marketing or a CMO at a SaaS company that has raised some funding, has product market fit. And we could go more in depth, but that would give you the general idea. And so what we decided to do was launch a podcast where every week we interview a senior marketer, a leading marketer at a SaaS company that matches our target buyer persona. And there were kind of 2 to 3 reasons as to why we did that. Number one was to build relationships with our target buyers. We weren't going to sell to them directly on the podcast. We were just going to interview them, share their expertise in 30 minutes, make them look great, promote it, and build a relationship with them. And so that was one. And we'll talk about the benefits of that in a second. And then secondary point was to focus on our own brand and content at HeyDigital. And so the podcast became our pillar piece of content where we live streamed pretty much every episode. And every episode was in full on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everywhere else. And then we would create clips from those episodes or quotes, or I would write kind of recaps and share those. And that was our kind of content engine as an agency, and was just stuff from the podcast. And so that helped us create a ton of content and create a ton of content very easily. And this was one thing that I was getting at a bit earlier on with podcast trend is if you did consider implementing this, if you're doing social media management for any of your clients and sometimes you struggle to come up with different content ideas, if they had one podcast episode a week or every 2 weeks, you would be able to get probably 5 to 15 pieces of content out of each of those episodes. And so it can be really lucrative and smart way to create content at scale. And so the kind of 2 benefits for us were, number one, we actually ended up closing a number of clients as a result, like people that we interviewed that then either immediately said, oh, by the way, I'm looking for a paid ads agency, or came back to us 3 months later, 6 months later, and remembered us from the relationship that we'd built. So we closed and have closed a number of clients from the podcast. We've closed clients who listened to the shows as viewers or watchers or listeners. And we also closed 3 sponsorship deals as well. So it turned out to be a very good revenue generator for us and a great networking tool. And so and a content tool as well. So that's one way that we had success through implementing a podcast. Now, one of the difficulties and challenges has definitely been, if you take a look, we haven't released an episode for a couple months, and that's because it is a whole kind of job or business in itself, keeping a podcast running. You need people dedicated to that. You need a strict schedule. And sometimes, like for us as an agency, our team has grown a lot over the last 6 months. Things have got very busy and the podcast has kind of taken a backseat. So there's definitely some negatives if you're kind of not prepared or don't have the infrastructure in place. Okay, so that's one. And then the second one is an AI copy tool. So we actually hired a copywriter on our team about 4 months ago, 3, 4 months ago. And so that also helped clear up this problem. But at one point, all of our paid media specialists were also in charge of not only building and launching ad campaigns and strategizing ad campaigns, but also writing all of the copy. And some of them didn't enjoy writing copy. Some of them weren't too great at writing copy. Their focus is on managing advertising campaigns, right? And so before we hired a copywriter, we wanted to find a way to speed up the copywriting process and improve the copywriting process. And actually now, even though we have a copywriter, we still use this tool to help create ideas and come up with different angles, etc. And so that was implementing an AI copywriting tool called Jarvis, which I shared a little bit earlier on. And just to show you really quickly, like how we use it, I can show you a really perfect example. There are lots of different ways that you can use this tool as well, but from an ad perspective, I'm just going to show you once this loads, because I think this will help a lot of you. Basically, you can go into Jarvis and you have access to a load of different templates. So social media templates to do post captions or create stories or bios or all this kind of stuff. We can have ads templates. We can have different frameworks, like copywriting frameworks, all kind of stuff. And so we create projects for our different clients. And to show you one example of a company that we have used this for in the past, we needed some support on some Facebook ad copy. And so we typed in a few different things into Jarvis, and then it churns out something like this. So we put in the name of the company, and then we put in a product description, and then it basically writes an ad for us. And this is a really great starting point. We don't always use it in its entirety, but we use it as a starting point. So you'll see, like, you can take out the headings here, but it will churn this up super fast, and it'll be really great, great quality most of the time. And so basically what you would do if you wanted to create one of those, you would go to like this framework or Facebook ads or whatever, you type in the product name. So in this case, like, let's actually just go to my personal space. You could type in, like, here we go. I actually used this when we were hiring at HeyDigital. So I typed in HeyDigital, we're hiring for an account manager, tone of voice, generate, and then you hit go, and it will create over on the right hand side in a few seconds a number of different variants of ad copy for you, or copy using this AIDA framework. So are you looking for a new job? HeyDigital is an award-winning digital marketing agency and we're hiring. Like, you can see the idea here, and this is super powerful. So we use this. It does way more stuff than this too, but it's a really great place for starting with content, and this helped us kind of recover or solve a definite blocker and save a lot of time and improve our internal processes as well. So I wanted to show how we implemented that. Now, some of you who run SEO agencies or SEO teams, you can get super clever. I'm not here to like sell you this tool by any means, but you can get super clever and start to use it to actually create blog posts as well. So for example, I typed in how to succeed with paid advertising, a guide for SaaS companies. And this was something that it suggested to me as a title. I wrote the short brief, and then it started to write the blog post for me. And you can do all kinds of stuff where you can like type in different codes and different cheat sheets to get it to start creating stuff. And I can click compose, and it will continue writing based on where we left off. So yeah, these kind of tools can be really helpful and useful for many agencies here. Okay, cool. So these are a couple of examples of how we implemented this. Now, before we wrap up today's session, we're going to run through the questions that came through. We'll do a little Q&A. But first, I want to encourage all of you to check out the next webinar that we're doing. And I'm going to share the link to that right now in the Zoom chat. So the next webinar that we're doing is about social media reporting, and this will be in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks from today, how to deliver and demonstrate ROI from social media reports. This one will be, not that today's session wasn't practical, but today was focused on kind of trends and overviews with a couple of case studies, but we are going to go more in depth into practical how to kind of deliver and demonstrate ROI from social media reports next week. So, or sorry, in 2 weeks' time. So if any of you are running social media agencies, paid advertising agencies, and need to report back your success and your results to your clients, I would definitely recommend joining this session in a couple of weeks' time. I put the link to that in the Zoom chat, so hopefully you should all be able to see that. And then the other couple of things I'm going to share, I think I shared with all of you already, but if you wanted to give one of the AI copywriting tools a go, I put the link in the Zoom chat as well, where you get 10,000 free words. And if you wanted to do to try out Restream, I shared the link to that also in the chat. I can grab it again if anyone needs it, just let me know. But now let's get to some of the questions that we had coming through. And I want to say, if you are going to kind of drop off now, if you're going to leave us now, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I hope you had a great time. I hope you found this interesting or you learned something today, and I hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks' time for our session on social media reporting. If this was your first time here, then I encourage you to come back for the next session. I think you'll find it really interesting and useful. And if you're watching this on a replay, also thank you for tuning in and making it through to the end. Next time, try and join us live so that we can help you and answer some of your questions if you have any. Okay, so let's get to a couple of the questions that I saw coming in through the chat. I'll stop my screen share and take a look at a couple of these questions. Okay, so, and if you have any further questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat section right now so that we can get to them. I think we have a chat box and we also have a Q&A box as well. Both can be utilized. If you could use the Q&A, the question and answer section, that would be great. I saw Denise just did that and it's much easier for me to find. Scrolling through the chat, otherwise it's all the messages from earlier on, and so there's quite a lot there. But let's go to this one. Okay, so Michelle asked for any advice on what do you recommend for small businesses? And then I asked for you to get a bit more specific. You said social media, how to get them noticed, how to convince them that videos are important. So to convince small businesses that videos are important, Michelle, I would just, to be honest, provide them with statistics and case studies. It doesn't have to be brands that you've worked with, but you can go and find like video marketing statistics, like the two that I shared actually. One was, I can actually just go back to the slide and grab it for you, but where is it? Okay, so one statistic was that 75% of millennials say that videos are helpful when they're comparing products when online shopping. And the other was that live video watch time is 10 to 20 times longer than on-demand video. So if you were to actually search for like video marketing statistics 2021, you would be able to find a few pieces of information to kind of help aid that discussion if someone isn't sure about video and video marketing. So that would be my first point of call. First thing to suggest is kind of back it up with data, but then you can show them, if you can find a couple of other businesses like theirs that are doing great things with content or video or on social media, you can show them what other businesses are doing. And then they'll see how that could potentially work for them, or they'll be able to probably see it a lot clearer. I don't know what kind of businesses you work with, but let's say you worked with, I don't know, a local cafe or coffee shop or restaurant. They're not into video or content, but then you show them a restaurant in another town or another city that is posting a lot of content, and then you go and look on TripAdvisor or Yelp or somewhere and they have a load more reviews and clearly they're pretty busy. That can be a good way of also convincing business owners or showing them the value. So hopefully that helps, Michelle. What other questions we had? So Denise said, any 2021 digital marketing strategy for non-profit organizations? Denise, I'm not sure about the best way to answer that question because, to be honest, I don't have any experience in the non-profit space. However, I would most likely say that the majority of what we shared is relevant for pretty much any business in 2021. I guess from a non-profit perspective, probably the one or two trends I would focus on is just how you can truly connect with potential donors or the audience through very personal content that feels real, that's not overproduced, stuff that is just really very real. I don't know, like my team at HeyDigital, we donate every single month as a team. We select a new charity in a different country. Basically, we have team members in 10 different countries, and each month we pick a country where we have a team member, and then they suggest up to 2 or 3 charities, and then the team votes, and we donate funds to a charity each month in a country where one of our team is based. And the charities that we've enjoyed supporting all of them, right? But some of them, when they send us like very real, raw footage on just shot on a mobile phone of like, here's where your donation is going or how you're supporting, those kind of things are great. And I would encourage everyone to do more of that. But as I said, I don't have a ton of experience in that space, so can't cover too much more. Okay, Patricia says, do you have any handouts to share? Patricia, let me know. I mean, I don't have any handouts. I don't know what that means though. So please let me know if there's something specific that you'd like support with. I don't have any handouts necessarily or downloadables. I would recommend, if you haven't done so already, checking out the Agency and Freelancer Academy site. So I've just put that in the Zoom chat. That looks a little, I'll share it on my screen as well. We touched on this a bit earlier on in the session, but this will support you with building, growing, scaling your agency with lots of different resources and guidance pieces and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps you. But if there's something specific that you are looking for, please let us know in the Zoom chat, because it might be helpful for either myself or the team at PromoRepublic, a different kind of content piece that we could consider. And so Will asks, do you have links to previous webinars that you can share? Yeah, Will. So if you click on the link that I just shared a second ago, growth.promorepublic.com, there's a tab for webinars. I'll actually just share the direct link with you right now in the chat, for previous webinars. And so that will take you to a screen like this. And you'll see the last session that we did was how to choose a niche for your agency, but there are many others here, like how to scale your agency, how to make it your most profitable year, evergreen content, like there's lots of how to automate, double your revenue, like loads of previous sessions from myself, and I believe from other people on here as well. Yeah, so there's other sessions on here too. So yeah, go ahead and check those out. No problem. I'm glad that's helpful for you. Okay, everyone. So I'll maybe give another 20 seconds to just see if any other questions trickle through. But if not, we will start to wrap things up. Okay. I haven't seen anything else. So let's wrap up now. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who joined today. I hope you found the session helpful, and I hope you tune in again in 2 weeks' time for our session on social media reporting. See you all soon. Thanks, everybody.